ass white boy. Come here and tell me that if I fuck you in your ass, you punk white boy, you faggot. You can't touch me, you're not man enough. I eat your asshole alive, you bitch. Fuck you, you hoe. Come and tell me in my face, fuck you, ass for everybody. You bitch. Come on, you bitch. You're scared coward. You not man enough to fuck with me. You can't last 2 minutes in my world, bitch. Look at you scared now, you hoe. Scared like a little white pussy. Scared of the real man. I'll fuck you till you love me, faggot.
Okay. AI check, boyos. This is not AI. This is not AI. Ooh, the neat is here. The lounger is here. I call needing lounging. I've been lounging away for about a year now in urban isolation. One of the best years of my life, if not the best. Year of liberation. Here we go anyway. I've put this script together today. I had it on my mind for a while, this particular clip and this particular message. So, here we go. I'm starting to read the script. Okay, first of all, this situation, when I say this situation, I'm referring to the press conference with Mike Tyson. So first of all, this situation is a perfect example of complete neurochemical destruction and serotonin depletion due to determinism. There's socioeconomic determinism. Tyson was raised in the ghetto by an extremely primitive crack horse single mother that got fucked and abused by bum Johns while he was at home, and he had to listen to all the moaning, shouting, and abuse all the time. Furthermore, he got bullied at school by other black kids to the point where he stopped going to school. That's how traumatizing it had become. Next is genetic determinism. Now, I'm just inferring here, but he probably had genetically higher testosterone levels and lower inhibition levels than the average Negroid male, let alone the average Caucasoid or Mongoloid male. Finally, ethnic determinism. The surname of the slave masters of his ancestors, the language of the slave masters of his ancestors. No country to call his own except that of the descendants of the slave masters of his ancestors. No independent cultural and historical identity of his own except that of slavery, subjugation, and a feeling of inherent racial inferiority due to systemic racism. No possibility to assimilate and blend in due to being racially distinct. Basically, a descendant of a brutally cucked group of males that surrendered and lived as cowardly slaves for almost 400 years, until white males finally freed them by abolishing slavery. Now, before I continue, I want to emphasize, like I already have in my other videos, that I'm not taking shots at any race or ethnicity in this context. I'm simply describing on a deeper, darker level, and without any sugarcoating, what an ethno-collectivist automaton can feel, and very often does feel, in terms of ethnic determinism. With that said, just to spread the ethno-collectivist automaton critique more evenly, here's a clip of Sébastien Chabal, the famous French rugby player, at a press conference in France. And no, I couldn't find any hard evidence, and neither could GPT or Gemini, link in the description to this video, that Chabal said this in retaliation to a similar incident with the press in England. It's all just hearsay and journalistic myth that has been accepted by the masses without any fact-checking.
Can I ask you a question in English?
No.
No?
We are in France. We speak French. Ok. Merci.
Look at that fragile Gallo-Roman Germanic subhuman automaton all up in his feelings. He's on the brink of chimping out just because a reporter dared to ask him a question in the international language of English at an international sports press conference in France. The French, after the Anglo-Saxons, are arguably the second most dominant ethnicity on the planet, or tied for second place at the least. But still nowhere near the Anglo-Saxons, considering that in most recent times France lost the French and Indian War, which was part of the greater 7 Years' War, which finally resulted in France losing Canada, America, and India to the Anglo-Saxons. Then they lost the Napoleonic Wars to the Anglo-Saxons. Then the Franco-Prussian War to the Germans, who occupied a large part of France for almost 3 years after the war ended. Then they got invaded, steamrolled, occupied, and cucked by the Germans again during World War II, before the American and British Anglo-Saxons finally liberated them. By comparison, the only major war the Anglo-Saxons clearly lost in the last 250 years was to each other, with the American Revolutionary War ending in American Anglo-Saxons, granted, with the help of the French, but still a predominantly Anglo-Saxon effort. So, ending in American Anglo-Saxons defeating the British Anglo-Saxons. So Anglo-Saxon dominance is unparalleled, but the French ethnicity is still very high up there in military, cultural, scientific, and economic accomplishments and influence, and it should provide some serious ethno-serotonin to any ethno-collectivist automaton. Yet Shibal is still so fragile, insecure, and emotionally arrogant, so generationally traumatized because in the end, the Anglo-Saxons won and the whole world is speaking English, while just a small part of the world is speaking French. Perhaps a parallel in combat sports would be McGregor or Cormier being one of the best, but they'll always be traumatized by their losses to Khabib and Jones. Either way, all that ethno-serotonin, all those ethnic W's, and Shibal is still such a snowflake. I can't imagine how neurochemically damaged he would be, and just how hard he would be chimping out every day if he woke up and found himself in an ethno-deterministic position similar to that of a black American male that doesn't even have a goddamn language to call his own, and has no choice but to speak the language of his forefathers' slave masters. Surely Shibal would have ended up dead or imprisoned by the age of 18, like a good, sensitive, serotonin-depleted, ghetto-dwelling, Gallo-Roman Germanic Pookie. But back to Tyson. One simple, quote-unquote, put him in a straitjacket from a white journalist nobody was enough to make him completely chimp out and literally start crying. One of the most successful and feared males on the planet, if we measure success by material wealth, status, respect. And yet one simple comment from some anonymous Mayo troll boy made him start crying. That Mayo troll represented the collective white race that had bullied and subjugated Tyson and his ancestors. Like a kid that is viciously bullied in elementary school, grows up to be extremely successful, wealthy, educated, big, strong, but then he comes across his bully one day, who is now a frail, poor bum, but still holds complete power over him due to all the emasculating neurochemical trauma he had caused in elementary school. And just one troll comment from the bully is enough to turn the extremely successful, prudent, disciplined, strong, adult male into a hyper-emotional, hyper-fragile, self-destructive chimp that throws the remainder of his life away and murders the bum bully in a fit of serotonin-depleted rage. I can't imagine the Ukrainian Usyk or the Ukrainian Klitschko brothers chimping out the same way as Tyson to any comment from a journalist, let alone a comment as innocuous as, put him in a straitjacket, even if that journalist were a Russian. Maybe if that journalist were the son or grandson of a Russian that raped and slaughtered the relatives of Usyk or the Klitschkos, and they knew about it, and that would already have to be on top of everything else like having a crack whore, single mother, and school bullying, etc. Possibly then. But that's the degree of neurochemical damage and generational cucking I'm talking about here. And to throw in some evolutionary biology, brain-dead primitive females, especially brain-dead primitive teenage females, will look at Tyson's chimp out and see a manifestation of power, whereas it's a manifestation of the exact opposite, complete powerlessness, leading to emotional, unstable, self-destructive behavior in a desperate attempt to restore serotonin and internal status, i.e., to uncuck oneself. But brain-dead, primitive teenage females of all races love their cucked, neurochemically traumatized, hyper-serotonin-depleted pookies and ray-rays of all races. They can't discern, let alone comprehend, the difference between primitive self-destructive violence and prudent, disciplined violence. Forget mud huts. Our ancestors would have never developed past the cave if brain-dead primitive teenage females had actually been given 100% sexual agency and 100% monopoly on reproduction like today, but without the modern medicine, i.e. the birth control and abortion. But the evolutionary, biological, anthropological, and DNA records, to say nothing of the most basic common sense, demonstrate that teenage female sexual agency was simply never the case. But much, much more on that in my upcoming video, titled Deflating DUC Validation Hyperinflation. Now on to the main topic. Here we go. DUCs are all punks and faggots. What's a punk in prison subculture? A male that gets penetrated. What's a faggot in prison subculture? A male that gets penetrated, but never the male doing the penetrating. Tyson, in a desperate attempt to inflict as much neurochemical damage as possible on his Mayo troll bully, goes for all the insults that he himself considers to be the most emasculating and humiliating. Ho, punk, bitch, pussy, coward, faggot. Basically anything connected with being a female or behaving like a female. But when an insecure male resorts to such insults, and many, many males do, they're actually just cucking themselves even more. I say even more because, of course, they're already cucked, cum-eating cuckolds that pedestalize DUCs and DUC validation. But they're cucking themselves even more because those insults are supposed to be the most humiliating and emasculating. Exactly because being penetrated by penis and filled up with sperm is the most humiliating and dehumanizing thing there is. But this applies to both sexes, not just to males. And that's why historically discarded used condoms were unclean, unmarriageable social pariahs. So by trying to insult and humiliate another male by calling him hoe, punk, bitch, pussy, faggot, Tyson, or anyone else employing such invectives, is just insulting and humiliating himself and his wife because he's married to a DUC that is and has been all those things to many, many males, and not just males, but complete bums in general, and especially in comparison to him, complete bums on whom she most likely spent her own money in her prime teenage years, whereas Tyson married her when she was already a thoroughly damp, stale, slimy, smelly, stretched out, geriatric 30-year-old DUC. And you can rest assured that many bum pookies and ray-rays, quote-unquote, fucked her till she loved them in her teenage prime. And she was a good hoe and a good bitch to all those bums. And all those bums called her a hoe and a bitch and many other much more degrading names as they were pulling her hair, slapping her, choking her, spitting on her, penetrating her, and filling her up with their penises and sperm. The same utterly worthless, contemptible, disgusting, dehumanized hoe and bitch and punk and faggot that you would render your most hated ops. Except you're pigeon dancing for her, qualifying yourself to her, venerating her and her validation, living with her, sharing a bed with her, holding hands with her, putting up with her disrespect, giving her your time, money, and affection, marrying her, making her the mother of your children. This hoe, this bitch, this punk, this faggot. How was that delivery? Was there enough pathos in that?